Hello, Bob.
I am going to disappear for a while now that I'm in.
All right. Just don't go out to a restaurant. Hello, John.
Oh, Carl,
Are you psyched up and ready to go for Monday night?
absolutely. Always. How about you?
I am. We did a tour of the auditorium on Friday with Felicia. And I don't know, she told me last year that the moderator, I don't know if other people were blinded by the new projector system there.
Yes.
So we came up with a different table configuration so that nobody should be in that spotlight. So hopefully that worked.
That's good. Yeah, he even mentioned it at the moderators meeting last Thursday that when you make an amendment from the floor, you have to literally put it up on the screen, and he can't read it. He can't see it. It's just, it blinds him.
Yeah. Well, he'll be way off to the right side on the stage. And then we think we have for the warrant committee and the selectmen, everybody out of that spotlight.
Good.
So,
Past 2 years, there has been literally no room on the selectman side. There's, it's, the stage is small to begin with, and there was the play or whatever they were using last year. There was there's always a play going on. Like there's a play tonight, and there's a play through Monday, a musical that my wife and kids are going to tonight. So that musical and all the props and everything will be set up and still in place. So
oh, really? Ah,
yeah, yeah.
well, that should make it interesting. What's the, you remember what the name of the play is?
Hello, Dolly.
Oh, so we can break into song at interview.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was Hello Delhi.
Oh God. Yeah, they're all excited. Tonight's the opening night. Lots of my friends are in it, so I'll bet Bob Spring, hey, he hasn't been to a musical in 30 years.
In high school? I've been to plenty of musicals. Most of them are on Broadway.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll bet.
I think the last one I did see was Hamilton, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think we've been to a musical since Hamilton.
It's My Fair Lady last week in Boston.
Really? Bunch of my wife's friends went, and they left it at the intermission. They said it was awful.
It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't a lot of anything. I mean, the singing was just okay. The story is the story. I mean, you can't
Right.
change that. But I mean, that must be 60 years old, maybe longer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember growing, when I was a kid, my parents having the music from that. So, hi, Robin.
Hey, Carl.
Well, Ford.
Hello, Carl, John, Bob, Robin.
Right. How are you?
Good. Carl, I see you're being drafted by Mava. Ed sent you an email.
Marva? No, I didn't see that.
Well, I participated. It's you meet with the MSBA people and
Oh,
talking to a bunch of prospective superintendents.
yeah.
You didn't get maybe. I wonder if he sent it to the wrong email.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is forward it to you.
Yeah, I don't see it on my home email.
Oh, he said it's the wrong email. I don't know. I got a copy of it. I'll forward it to you.
Okay, thanks. Where is he now? Is he still in Massachusetts?
Yeah, no, he's up in Vermont and he's training new superintendents for schools.
Oh, yeah.
It's a thankless job, I think.
Which one? The training or the being a superintendent?
Both.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hunter, you ready to rock?
Oh, it is 6:30. Oh, sorry. Sure. It was 6:25.
Yeah, then time flies when you're having fun.
5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and then suddenly it was 6:30.
That's
That's
what
good.
happens to me. Somehow it takes me 10 minutes to get from upstairs to downstairs. I don't know why.
That's
Oh,
what,
boy.
just anecdotally, that's what happens to me every morning.
Every morning,
I have
right? Every morning. Yep,
Everything
yep,
all set and I'm 10 minutes late.
yep. Understood.
Yeah, so welcome everybody to the April 27th, 2023 Board of Selectmen meeting. Following guidance issued by the state in 2020 regarding open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting remotely, and individuals wishing to participate can do so from a computer or via phone. The links are on the agenda. The agenda can be found on the website. The first item of business is a roll call vote of the Board of Selectmen. So Robin Hunter, present.
Bob Springett present.
John Jeffries here.
He's not present though.
Right, well, all of us being here, I would like to go with the first item of business, which is citizens' comments. So do we have any citizens' comments? There being none, I will move on to item 1.1. And that is to award the roadwork resurfacing bid to LaRusso Company, and Kevin McCabe, head of DPW, is here. So you're gonna make a little presentation or just go over the items, Kevin?
No, so I sent the documents to you, so I was basically looking for the approval. This is a 3-year contract, similar to the recent tree bid that was awarded. Recent in the sense our last bid, which was had 3-year options in it. We had 12 plan holders for the bid and 5 bids. LaRusso Corp last was in Dover in 2020. So the staff was happy to have them back in town with the product they provided for us a few years ago now.
Okay, and just remind people, this is our standard road resurfacing program, right?
Yes,
And some of the funds come through Chapter 90 and some of them are from the town budget.
our local operating, yeah.
Do you have a split? Of the 700,000?
Yeah, so your next board meeting, I just had a bid opening yesterday for pavement preservation. So part of the work we did last summer, we had the automated, the pavement management consultant come in there, and they did the artificial technology and scan the roads. So basically we packaged up that. So this covers basically mill and fill. So it'd be grinding out 1.5 inches of the existing hot mix asphalt and replacing it in kind. So the split will be kind of 60-40, 60% being the traditional mill and fill, and then also doing that pavement preservation, which I'll
Yeah, so a lot of work over on Pine Street, yeah?
Yeah.
yes, yep. So
Pine Street needs it.
yeah, so it'd be basically the roads would be all of Pine Street, Hales Hollow, Pine Street, or Pond Street, excuse me, and then Regina Road. And then also there'll be another agreement in the hopefully we'll have that back from legal by your next meeting. Aquarion's going to be contributing funds to do curb to curb pavement restoration at the work they did on Brenton, Picardy, and Normandy Road. So that'll be part of this as well.
Got it.
Nothing in John's neighborhood, right?
No, exactly. So you got
Not this year, yeah.
you got Riga all the way up to almost to Robin Street, and then we're avoiding Bob on the bottom
Yeah,
of it.
nothing on Francis Street.
all,
What am I,
no.
dirt over here.
Yeah,
No.
so it's the first year is a little strategic because you want to go heavier on the quantity. So you're following subsequent 2 years, you get better, bid pricing in the tonnage. And then also, they take into account the mobilization of how many times they need to move and set up. Whereas next year will be a little bit more of whatever kind of benefits us based on that, the algorithm of the cost benefit analysis that's produced with the study we did last summer.
Thank
Right,
you,
and Kevin, just to remind people, we don't just go and pave the streets that are on the plan. We go out and look at them and make sure that they need to be paved, or if there are others that need to be move ahead. Right.
Right. So that was what basically the summary of that report did. It takes that subjectivity out of it. And then also we need to put in, local factors as, we're not going to go pave a road that, Aquarion's going to redo the water main next year, or, utility companies going to go in there and do that. And we try to kind of coordinate that and schedule that with years to come. So we do a 3-year lookout as far as that program. However, in the next few weeks, once this gets going, we'll post the roads. There'll be a narrative of kind of what's going to go on there. And then, we'll do the local flyers to the residents that'll be directly affected.
Okay. And will we use those electronic boards just to remind people as well?
Yeah. So in my past municipality, typically we leverage those for kind of like like a Pine Street, right? A major road to cut through, and the residential roads would be kind of relying more on, sending out a local flyer that, we anticipate to begin work, X, Y, and Z, and then, to direct all comments and questions to my office. So.
Well, Robin, if there's no more discussion, I move to award the townwide road surfacing bid to LaRusso Corporation of Plainville, Massachusetts for the first year of renewable 3-year contract at the cost of $714,931.50 to authorize interim town administrator to sign at the relevant contracts.
Reluctantly second.
All in favor, aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
All right, and Kevin, don't go away. The next item is each year, I guess the American Public Works Association recognizes the work performed by public works professionals throughout the country by proclaiming a week in May as the National Public Works Week. And throughout the week of May 21st. So you have selected May 21st to May 27th. Public works professionals will be celebrated for the contributions to their communities. So what kinds of things do we do?
So those we're keeping tight to the chest, but basically it's similar to last year. That the APWA, American Public Works Association, this is the 63rd proclamation that they put out to recognize public works professionals and the reach that they have to the citizens in the community, and how they affect everyone's daily lives, and how the citizens would be dramatically impacted if the functions of public works weren't inserted into the community. So this is just a week to recognize staff for their tough work through winter storms, emergencies, and then just normal day-to-day of such as like sign replacement.
Okay, well, if you have anything fun planned, let us know. We'll join you. So I move to declare May 21st through the 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week in Dover, Massachusetts.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
And on a serious note, Kevin, you and your guys do a tremendous job for the town. And I think sometimes we take everything for granted that everybody does, because there's really nothing wrong, and all we can do is complain about the few hiccups that occur. So, you know, you and your team really do a tremendous job. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I'll pass those comments along. to
Yeah,
the team.
please. And, you know, obviously snow gets the biggest attention, right? We keeping the roads going, but I
Absolutely.
mean, it's a 365 year,
Smooth.
365 job. So
Clear roads in the winter, smooth roads all year round. So,
yeah. So thank you. And please pass on my appreciation, Kevin.
well, thank you to the board.
Right. And they really go the extra mile. So we couldn't
Yeah,
ask.
no,
So the next item of business is the long awaited for community center summary of bids. And I see that John Bates is on the, in the meeting, and the chair of the building committee. So I would suggest that the way we start, maybe, John, is there was a presentation, maybe you give the presentation. And then or maybe you give a quick summary of building committee's recommendations, and then we can go from there. Does that
Tony,
make
it's a 24 slide presentation that John put together.
No, no.
Yeah,
no.
I'm sure he can summarize it.
Well,
I'll tell you, I think it was strategic. The numbers were really hard to read. I had to like go like this.
yeah, no, admittedly, the last slide.
I know
was
you had a lot of
just small.
information on the spreadsheet, but
Well, so I do have the PowerPoint available, and it's about 5 or 6 slides. I could share it if you want, or I could give you a verbal summary. It's up to you.
Please
In
share the slides, John.
yeah, I
order
think
to
it's
Worked
nice.
hours on those.
Right.
In order to share it, I will need the host to enable screen sharing. It's currently telling me I don't have that ability, so.
Carol, you're the host. This won't allow me to be host, so you're gonna have to press the 3 buttons next to John's name and allow him to be co-host.
We good?
Not yet. Mr. Valenti, are you running the meeting?
You know, I am the host.
So you'll
Yeah.
have to go to that green button called share screen, and hopefully if you click that, it'll give you options to add multiple sharers, I guess we'll say. Nothing yet on my end.
You know, all I see is the documents will be sharing.
It's at the bottom. It's a green button, because I can see the green button, but it says the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
See, it's on mine. Oh, hold on a second.
Carol,
Yeah.
maybe you can switch the host back to me, and that might work.
All right, Mona, you should be the host.
Okay. Hey, John, I just made you the co-host and I allowed you to share the screens. Does that work?
Yeah, I know
Okay.
I now should have the ability. Bear
There's
with
a
me
lot
here.
more pressure on John now because we've been
Yeah.
waiting bated breath.
All right, I don't like the way that's showing up. Something's funny here. So give me 1 second, and I think I can. Screen.
Didn't realize it was gonna be this much work.
It's not usually this tough. Something's funny though on the
Mm-hmm.
all right. Well,
do we all have do we all have the presentation?
Here it is.
So you'll see at least a version of it, not the one I wanted to share. I wanted to share a full screen, but this will work. So at long last, so general contractor bidding coverage, as you know, for a project that's valued at $10 million, Mass General Law requires that we pre-qualify before they can submit bids. We started the pre-qual process back in January of this year. We received 12 quals packages from contractors, general contractors. They all 12 pre-qualified for the project. And come bid time, which was last Wednesday, the 19th, we received 2 general contractor bids, and you see them here beneath. The lowest being M. O'Connor Contracting. They may sound familiar to you. They were the lowest responsible bidder from last year's bidding, and their base bid was $19.1 million. As you can see, we did have 2 ad alternates listed in the bid documents. The first one being the exterior recreation court, second one being the swing area. M. O'Connor bid 90,000 and 84,000 respectively on those, for a total, if the town were to elect it, to take those 2 ad alternates, of $19.3 million. So that's M. O'Connor's bid, and then the next bid was GVW. You can see that they were a bit more, $20.6 million, and then you see their ad alts listed there next to them. We do have a slide to sort of show you at a high level where we've come from since June 2021 town meeting. We had voted on an $18.85 million total project budget. That at the time was based on cost estimates. Of course, last year at June of 2022, based on actual contractor bids, we had established a total project budget of $22.149. That was a $3.3 million addition from the previous year. And of course, we're tracking the June 2023 town meeting this year. Our anticipated total project budget this time around would be $25.443. We can get into that in a bit later at the last slide, but that's another $3.3 million since last year, totaling 6.6 since 2021. Feedback from contractors on cost escalation. So obviously bids have gone up, and we wanted to know why. We made some phone calls, and basically the overall theme is things haven't changed much since last year. We're still talking about material prices going up. We're still talking about labor availability being down. Labor productivity is an issue. Still carrying cost escalation for supply chain issues. They're carrying extra money to accommodate storage costs because the long lead time items are impacting the process quite considerably. And there's just a large volume of projects out there right now. I mean, that's evidenced in the bids that we got on this project. That's evidenced in some other bids on other projects that we're aware of in the public sector. In some cases, we've seen recently projects come in with no general contractor bid. So there's just a lot of work out there and not enough GCs to do them right now, or subs for that matter. Feedback specifically about this project from pre-qualified GCs that didn't submit bids. Again, the overall theme is everyone's really busy. You can read these comments here, but a lot of volume, they just won a lot of work recently and didn't feel like they had the capacity to submit a bid on the Dover Community Center project. And again, that's why we're seeing 2 bids come in out of 12 pre-qualified contractors. Just a lot of stuff going on out there right now. Quickly, just M. O'Connor Contracting. Again, they do have to be not just the low bidder, but the responsible bidder. They have to have the experience and the capability to do this project. M. O'Connor, we find, does have that. They've been around since the 70s. They're out of West Roxbury, Mass. They focus on this kind of project, municipal work, similar to the community center, addition renovations. That's their expertise. They've got 23 people on staff. They get a high DCAM rating, 91 out of 12 project evals, no negative or failing references to date. Similar past projects, we note Stoughton Public Library, Bridgewater Town Hall, Boughton Public Library, Moody Street Fire Station, and Newton Early Childhood. And just so you can kind of see an example of their work. This is a construction addition or a renovation addition project, Stoughton Public Library, good DCAM rating, comments, Ed O'Connor, that was the site super. Finest superintendent they've ever worked with in their careers. So it's a pretty good comment for a DCAM evaluation. You can see that they have a ability to do modern construction. Also, they have the capacity to do historic preservation projects like the Bridgewater Town Hall, another ad reno project, good DCAM eval. M. O'Connor's project management was great, worked together well with the architect, owner, and OPM. So good references, good and good evaluations. And so that
So
gets us to
John,
our-
have have you worked with them before?
Yeah, so I personally haven't worked with M. O'Connor, but everything that we've been hearing from people we've talked to, in this particular market, this type of project, they're the best around.
Okay.
Me personally, I haven't. One of our committee members, Mr. Billings, has a recent experience with them, and he spoke pretty highly of them.
Okay.
So we feel really confident about M. O'Connor. So. Project breakdown. So this is the total project budget. I realize it's hard to read due to the small numbers.
Oh,
but-
that's much better.
Yeah, so now I can zoom
Put on
in.
your reading glasses, Robin, come on.
I have it on my screen as well.
I
Current
have it
budget.
on- I have it in the handout.
Yeah, well, that's why I have it on my screen in the, I have three things going on here.
Current budget, as we know, and this was voted on a town meeting 2 years ago, $14.18 million for construction. So that's not going to cover what our latest bids are. We would need another 4.97 in order to make that 19.15 that M. O'Connor came in at work. So that would be our bid overage request. In this case, for construction will be 4.97, as you see in this middle column here. Under soft costs, FF&E, audiovisual equipment technology, we've had conversations with our vendors and consultants. They think that what we've carried for escalation here in this bid overage column will be sufficient to get us through this extended period that we're undergoing here. So we feel confident in these numbers here for the additional requests. And then when we go down to architects and engineers, so this is Fenwick McCready's contract amendment amount that they would need. This includes the VE effort, the rebidding effort, and the contract administration effort that would take place in 2024 and 2023. So that would be their contract amendment value. Similarly, this would be Collier's. This has been agreed to already. This is $212,000 for, again, rebidding, project strategizing that we've been doing over the last several months, in addition to construction administration services that presumably would kick off with project approval in July of this year and go in through next year. A few other soft costs here that we've added. We needed to cover additional bid hosting costs to go out to rebid. We do carry that $7,500 peer review fee for BH&A in here under miscellaneous expenses, and then a couple $1,000 for advertising. We feel good about our contingency right now. We have a 7% contingency that was agreed upon by the building committee the other night. It's a good value for an addition renovation project where you're really trying to accommodate for unforeseen circumstances and conditions that you might not be aware of at the time that you start construction. For ad rental projects, that tends to be, generally speaking, slightly more of a risk than as opposed to a new build, just because you're dealing with an old building.
So John, excuse me for a sec.
Sure.
So originally that was a 5% number.
That was, yep,
And then it was moved up to 7% because both Luciana and Dave thought that we need a little bit more wiggle room on renovation, right?
that's right.
So
Yeah.
this includes all that stuff. So
It does.
like the final numbers. Sorry, I
does.
just wanted to
Yep.
clarify that in my
No,
mind.
you're absolutely right. Yeah, it includes that, what
John-
we discussed. Yep.
Prior to the increase from 5 to 7%.
Yeah, it was about-
Colliers comfortable with the contingency at that point, because it's the same amount we've been carrying all along.
Yeah, I mean, Colliers was comfortable with it because we were going under the understanding that the likelihood of spending all of the owner's project contingency, again, that's another 5%, was probably not likely we'll spend the whole amount. And with that being the case, you might be in a situation where at the end of the project, you still have another 2.5% in owners that you could transfer into construction contingency, and thereby getting you a 7 to 7.5%. But At the same time, we have a couple of really, really qualified experts on our committee, and they've had a lot of experience under their belt. And, we value their opinion and their expertise as well. So if Mr. Billings and Ms. Birdie think that 7% for construction going into it is appropriate, we don't argue with that either.
So what's the increase, around 200,000,
I think it's roughly 400,000.
400?
Yep. Roughly 400,000, yep. So that gives us a total of $25.4 million for the total project budget, construction and soft costs. That's an additional ask, if you will, of $6.59 million. You see that highlighted in yellow. And that's the last slide in the presentation. It was intended to be brief. I think Mr. Spalding has some motions that he wanted to read from not last night, but 2 nights ago.
So before you run off, John, anybody have questions? Robin, John?
I'm not a construction expert. So it's hard for me to opine as to whether an additional 2% is warranted. I do know that when you have a larger pot of money, you tend to spend it.
Right, yeah,
But
that's true. I don't know, I think John was pretty persuasive.
Robin, are you finished, or are you going to complete what you were thinking? Or what?
no, I mean, I'm just saying I'm not an expert. I can't opine. I feel as though if you have an additional money, you tend to spend it. But
Well,
if I don't know what the markets are going to do.
if the mindset of the project team, the architect, the OPM, and the owner are going into it saying that we want to protect ourselves against risk, but we also want to be cost conscious throughout the duration with the goal of maintaining contingency and not spending it. That money goes
Right.
back to the town at the end of the day.
Right. No,
Yeah, I think that if we go into it with the mindset that yes, we have it, but we don't intend to necessarily spend it all by any means, then
Yeah.
that could be.
John,
Yes, John.
So, that mindset is a benefit for us in this particular incident, but with back to your initial comments at the very beginning with padding and contingencies and the essentially building costs up because of the builder's risk, if you will, of inventory, supply chain, all the things that you mentioned at the very beginning of your presentation. Obviously cost, that's reflective in the cost. So what I just, at the very beginning of your presentation, I was just wondering, what were the 2 projects that received no bids? Were they projects like a community center that is relatively small, single building, or were they large campus type settings for larger schools, middle schools? What was the scope of those projects?
It was one project that I'm aware of. It was a couple of weeks ago, bids were due. It was a public project and probably within a couple $1 million in terms of scope to this project. Very, very similar, a public project. And so, yeah, they came time for general bids and they got no general bids. And I'm personally, that's not a Collier's project, but I was just become aware of it through conversations. But Collier's had a larger project, but a couple of months ago come in and we had a couple of trades with no bids in them. So it just speaks to the competitiveness out there and the lack of availability of labor. So
are those the one that you're familiar with? Mm-hmm. Was it a local Massachusetts bid?
All within the Commonwealth. Yep.
All within the Commonwealth.
Yep.
Small. Do you know the town? What town it was?
So the one that got no bids, I believe that was in Sharon. It's a library project. And that was from a couple of weeks ago. We had an MSBA project that I've been working on quite a bit. And that's the other one I referenced, and much larger in scale, but But yeah, we had, it's actually one trade that we had 0 bids. So,
So, you know, we understand the market's tight. It's probably not a horrible thing to add additional more contingency.
yeah, and you know, to John's point, with escalation being what it is, and I've been told by contractors recently, they pointed me to emails they get from their suppliers saying, guess what, folks, get ready for another 7% increase in prices. So, you know, we don't like to talk about change orders, but they are a reality of construction. And, you know, in an ad reno, there is some risk. We don't know what we're going to find when we start demoing and picking the
Right.
building apart. So presumably those change orders, those cost escalations might have implications in the change orders, right? So, yeah, I mean, so to that end, it might be good to play it safe and have that extra contingency in the pocket.
Right, and you know, I like the idea of planning not to spend it, but having it there if it's necessary.
Right, right. And I think that's been discussed for, you could comment on this. I think that the committee in general has had the mindset that owner's contingency is not something that necessarily would be spent. But the mindset is that you know, if possible, would stay with the town, you know, to the extent it can.
So do we just move to the motion?
I think Ford wanted to say something and then we can certainly move to the motion.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things. I am very pleased about M. O'Connor being selected because we were able to get them last year. Now we have them. I will tell you, they had the Pembroke project. They did that. They're over in Needham right now doing an elementary school. Castle Booze that I've worked with at Minuteman highly recommends them. They've worked with them a lot. So I think number one, we're very lucky to get them. In terms of the contingencies, and we did make a motion, obviously, to increase it from 5 to 7%. I've only worked on 2 projects, one Dover Sherburne and one Minuteman. In every one of those, we return money back on the project. It's just the way things are done. Yes, the contingency is there, but Robin, if it's there, we don't just spend it. There are weekly meetings held by the OPM, of which I would hope to attend, and others, and they go through every step of the. They map out every week what's happening in front, and if there are any issues that come up, we know on a weekly basis what they are, and then they would be vetted by the building committee if in fact we had a change order of any value. So that was one motion. The second motion we made is to recommend to the Board of Selectmen inclusion of the $174,000 for ad alternates 1 and 2, and that was the unanimous recommendation to you. And the final motion was to recommend to the Dover Board of Selectmen the lowest qualified bidder, M. O'Connor Contracting Inc. of West Roxbury, Mass. to be the project general contractor, and the total project cost will be $25,443,800. All those were unanimous votes by the building committee. So
Okay, so I appreciate that. We already have the ad alternates as a separate warrant article, and the town will vote on that, but we appreciate your position and the position of the building committee. I agree with your remarks, Ford. I think, given the market, we're very fortunate to have such a reputable general contractor bid on this contract. And, and hopefully what that will mean is we'll come in on time and below budget.
you got it.
Right. And so what I'm going to do, is just move to receive the report of the community center and to appoint M. O'Connor as the general contractor for the community center building project. Do I have a second?
I will second that motion, assuming that that's the $25.4 million bid, and it excludes the separate warrant articles. Is that true?
Yes, except that, well, in my opinion, it would be. Robin, what do you?
Right, because we already have the warrant, so, we're gonna have the two separate warrant articles.
Right.
John, you haven't included the 174 in there, have you?
No, the 174 is not included.
Not in there. No, it's 25.4, it's the 6.6.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that excludes the 174. I just
So
want to
you-
make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right, so do you want me to specifically say for the 25.4?
I don't know, Carl, do we need to do that?
You do not, because at a later point, you'll be voting on the actual warrant article for the special town meeting, as well as the ad alternate. So at this point, I think what you've done, accepting receiving the report and in particular, accepting M. O'Connor, appointing
Right.
M. O'Connor is the key.
Right.
So you're good.
Easy. Okay, so I did second the motion.
All right, so then all in favor, I, Robin Hunter.
Bob Springett,
Hi, John Jeffries.
done.
All right,
Thank you very much.
when do we break ground?
In 2032. Supply chain issues.
Well, thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John.
Very
Well
good.
done. Thank you very much. Ford, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Deborah.
Take care.
all right, so moving right along, the next item of business on the agenda, I'm going to turn over to Carl Valente, and that's to approve the June 3rd, 2023 special town meeting warrant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I had hoped also to put this up on the screen for you, but the host disabled participant screen sharing. So Mona, could you allow screen sharing again?
Mona has all the power.
She has the power.
Nothing new there.
Glad you said that.
That's still disabled, Mona. If you okay. There you go. Can you see that now?
Yes.
All right, so here's the draft special town meeting warrant. And let me just get to the articles themselves. So Article 1 is what you just approved, the base project for the community center. Article 2 is the ad alternates. And then Article 3, at an earlier meeting, Mr. Springett suggested we may want to make sure we have sufficient funding in the 24 budget to be able to, if we need to start hiring a community center director or things like that, even before the project finishes, but to start that process. So, so I drafted a third article that would allow us to have some funding should we need to start that hiring process for a director. So here's the bigger issue for the board to consider. You can see I highlighted in yellow some of the language. So as you know, as we know, this has come in not only above what town meeting previously approved, but also it came in above what was presented when this was a debt exclusion vote. Now, the debt exclusion vote did not have a number to it, and that's by state law. We approve the debt exclusion, but you don't approve a number for that, a dollar amount. So there's 2 or 3 different options here to consider. The first option is the Department of Revenue has a procedure where you can request when you come in on a project that has been excluded and the price comes in above what was presented at the time of the exclusion. You can request that additional amount be included as part of that original debt exclusion. And their primary criteria for determining whether they allow that or not is, has the scope changed? If you have a change in scope, a greater scope, they will not approve it. But if the scope has not changed, what I'm hearing is they've been approving those. And talking with our Hilltop Securities, our financial advisor, they shared with me that particularly around school projects these days, communities are regularly going to the Department of Revenue saying the school construction project has come in above what was discussed for the debt exclusion, and getting approval from DOR to include that additional amount in the excluded debt. So that's one option. As I look at what we have to submit to DOR to see if they'll approve it, the first step is we have to have the vote for town meeting that town meeting has approved the additional appropriation. So we can't approach DOR yet with that question.
And Carl, if you do it that way, then you don't need the vote.
It sounds like you need the vote either way.
You
No,
still
you need
need
to vote at town meeting. You don't
town
need to
meeting.
vote at the ballot.
That's correct. The second option is if the Department of Revenue denies our request and the board wants to go back to the voters and see if they'll approve this additional amount. The language that has been highlighted in yellow would actually require you to go back to the voters. So it's contingent upon approval of a debt exclusion. And again, that's the way state law is written, is if you want to tie a town meeting vote, make it contingent on a debt exclusion, you have to have this language that I have highlighted in yellow. The third option would be we delete the language that's highlighted in yellow. And the board could always decide whether they want to go back to the voters, assuming DOR does not approve it. The board could always decide that they want to go back to the voters and ask for this additional funding if DOR denies it. And you can do that in next fall, you can do it a year from next fall, you can do it at any point in the future, is to go back to the voters and see if they'll exclude this additional debt service.
So by going back to the voters, would we have to go back to town meeting and then have an election? Or can you just move forward with an election since town meeting already approved it?
The election,
That's correct, just the election.
just the election.
And then
So this is, we're going to the public. Last time we presented at a town meeting, they voted debt exclusion, we had the election. I see this as no different. This is a town-wide decision. We should follow the same processes and procedures. We go to town meeting, we ask them to approve the debt exclusion for the 6.6 million, and then we have a town election. I don't see why we would do it differently. That's our procedure.
Well, it's just because under state law, you can do it differently. So
Yeah,
Carl.
but I don't see any reason to do that. I mean, it just seems like running around in a circle. Most direct way to do it, you go to town meeting, you ask them and you go. I don't need to go to DOR. Don't need to do that step. Don't need to have any contingency. We clean it up June 3rd, yes or no?
And then do you, yes or no, then go to a ballot.
Then you have to, well, that's the way the town works.
Yeah. But I just wanted to add that next step in, Bob, just in case somebody was listening to you and thought you ended there.
No. It would be that 50% at an election,
No,
2/3 at town meeting.
I knew what you meant. I just wanted to clarify.
Oh, John, thank you very much.
Where some of that might be listening. And I agree. Bob, your point, I think to paraphrase, let's do it the way we've done it.
Yep.
I'm good.
So let me I'll ask for a clarification. Let me just, for the sake of saying it, tell you the fourth option, which is we may have the ability to fund this additional amount without asking to be included in the original debt exclusion. Now that we know the amount that's involved, approximately 6.4 million, I can start running different financing options for the board. And my hope would be to have those options for you on the meeting on May 11th.
This needs to go, this is a toy for people. They need to pay the price. It's 6.6 million, yes or no?
Well, either way, you pay the price, Bob. It's just,
Yeah, but no, I don't want to get into a situation like where we already put $4 million into this in free cash, right? The rest of this debt needs to be debt. And and collected from the taxpayers on a quarterly basis.
You mean the balance of the cost needs to be included in?
well,
Yeah.
it would be either way. It's just the one rolls off and the other one doesn't.
Right.
Right. So either way, it's debt
Technically,
and people's tax bills. And I assume, we will do calculations and provide estimates to citizens of Dover of what the additional cost is going to be.
Similar to what we did last time.
Right.
Yeah. I understand exactly what you're saying, Carl. Thank you for it. And I appreciate what Robin's comments are, that it really is ultimately coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. I just agree with what Bob is saying from the philosophy of let's keep it simple, let's make it clean, let's not sugarcoat this in any way.
Right.
It's going to be $26 million, and $26 million is going to come from taxpayers, and we're going to bond it.
Well, we've
End of
already
story.
bonded 18, so that it's
The total.
it's what people need.
Yeah, the
to
difference.
understand
The
is what
total.
the incremental cost.
Yeah, I just meant to add the total.
So just as you're discussing this, just the one thing you need to think about, just procedurally, is this phrase that I have highlighted in yellow, where it's contingent upon approval. So that means you wouldn't, if you leave that in, that phrase in yellow, you wouldn't be able to sign a contract within 30 days unless M. O'Connor agreed to extend the time, right? Because it would be contingent upon a debt exclusion.
Right.
You could take out that phrase in yellow and still go ahead with a debt exclusion vote. So you could set that date of that debt exclusion vote.
But then if we did do that, Carl, what you're saying is the town is on the hook for the 6.7 million of the difference between the 19 that we have and the 6 that we still need.
How did we do it last time?
Contingent.
Last time it was contingent, but you had the time to call for a ballot question. I mean, that's the other thing to think about is a ballot question. This is town meeting in June. If it passes, and it's either within 90 days or 120 days. I didn't look up the statute before this meeting, but you have statutorily, you have to call for your election within that statutory period. So you would not be able to sign a contract if this yellow clause
Right, so
remains.
So
So
why
June 3rd
wouldn't we just set an election now for like June 15th or because the sooner we get the election done, the better.
Right, so you could literally do it June 10th.
Yeah, it's 35,
Theoretically,
it's
theoretically,
35
you
days.
could, you have to have the constable post the election. You have to have Felicia's ability to say, yep, we can do it on those days.
Right.
There's,
It was
you know,
roughly 2 weeks we used to do it.
there's
Well,
some
why
steps.
don't we ask Felicia how quickly she could get,
Right.
what she needs
Again,
to do.
wasn't it always 2 weeks?
It's, for election, it's 35 days. So you'd have to have a special meeting within the next couple of days
I'm
to
sorry.
call for an election.
So we were voting on May 3rd, ATM, and the election is 2 weeks later, isn't it?
Right, but you have to approve the election, so we, as a board,
Have to vote to approve.
would have to vote for the date of the election.
Okay,
So let's talk to Felicia and we can do a special meeting. Doesn't matter to me.
yeah,
just
fine.
vote the date of the election.
Okay,
Because
Well, I mean,
statutorily, that's what you have to do.
Right.
right, so it would be, best case, it would be sometime in mid-June. That's the 35 day, if you were to vote a special election, just say tomorrow, or, May 1st, 35 days is gonna take you to somewhere around the first week of June. And you want it, probably be right after the town meeting vote.
And you want it to be before June 17th, because that is the day of the exit.
Right.
oh, the
Vote
Dover to
Right, but you
Nantucket
can
and
vote
Martha's Vineyard and.
absentee ballot.
No,
It's just
I'm
letting
just,
people know.
I'm only being somewhat facetious, Robin, but that and I do mean I'm emphasizing somewhat, because that's the last day of school. You don't want to do it after the last day of school.
Right, but I'm
So-
just saying, the most important thing is to publicize it. We also need to figure out from the town clerk, when
Yeah.
she can get this
No,
done.
no disagreement in all those things.
So it sounds like you can do it the week of the June 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, or 16th.
So Carl, what I would say is that we touch base with Felicia, figure out when she thinks she could get this done, understanding that we want to get it done as soon as possible in June, and then just let us know. I mean, I think we need, we'll need to post a meeting and then approve or call a special election at that meeting.
That's right, yes.
So hopefully we can get this all done next week. Well, do we have a meeting posted already for May 1st?
ATM.
You don't have a meeting posted, no. And you're not
'Cause-
required to post a meeting for a
Okay.
town meeting.
Well, all right, because then I was thinking maybe we could have everything by May 1st done. But if we need something later on in the week, we should just post a meeting and vote on this.
Are you talking next week, Robin?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
I was just wondering if we had a meeting already posted for May 1st. Then I was thinking we could do this on Monday.
No,
We don't.
our meeting is the town meeting.
Right.
Well, sometimes in the past, we had a Board of Selectmen's meeting before.
Right. But wouldn't we have to notify? Well, I guess.
Yeah, it's too late now. We don't have it. We don't need to discuss this anymore. I was just trying to figure out how quickly we could get this done.
You're the one discussing it.
Are we sort of on the same page?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we know what's gonna happen. Carl's gonna reach out to Felicia. Felicia's gonna tell us when she can reasonably have an election in June, understanding we want to do it before June 17th. And then we will make sure that sometime next week, we have a meeting to call that election.
Great. Okay,
Thank you, Carl.
So you either need to approve this warrant today or at that special meeting you'll have next week. But we do have posting requirements for town meeting warrants as well. And your next meeting on the 11th would be just a bit too late to vote this special town meeting warrant. So if you're
I'm
you
in
wanna
favor of
vote it
voting
in.
this now.
so I move to approve the June 3rd, 2023 special town meeting warrant
I'll
As-
second that.
as presented.
As
as
presented,
presented.
With the yellow highlight.
with the yellow highlights and the contingent.
That's not in the motion, by the way.
No, but that's just to clarify what Carl was saying.
Okay.
Second,
Yep.
all in favor, I, Robin Hunter.
Bye, Bob Sprant.
I, John Jeffries.
Great.
Good, thank you.
And then Carl, the next item is you as well. It's the discussion and vote on Norfolk County retirement.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So under state law, retirement systems can grant their retirees cost of living increases every year. This past year, and I used to be limited to a 3% cost of living increase, and it wasn't on the entire pension cost. It was limited, depending on the retirement system, to somewhere, it's sort of a minimum of your first $12,000 of pension. Some retirement systems have increased that above the 12,000 limit, or 12,000 floor. They've increased it a little bit. So this past year, given the high inflation, the state passed a local option that retirement systems can increase that cost of living increase up to 5%, a maximum 5%. And in county systems, like what we belong to, it requires the communities that are part of the county system to approve that additional increase above the 3% that exists in state law. So the county retirement board is recommending that the cost of living increase, be 5%. So it's again an additional 2% above that 3% threshold, and that requires a vote of each of the members of the Norfolk County Retirement System.
So Carl, I didn't understand this. Is this capped at a certain salary, at a certain salary or retirement level?
It's only on the first, I think Norfolk County, it's it's only on the first $15,000.
For everyone, or just for people?
Well, anybody who's getting at least 15,000. If you get a $20,000 pension, it's only on the first. The cost of living is only on the first 15,000.
Thank you.
So do you have any questions or discussion,
And that was my only question.
John?
No, is there a recommendation?
There's no staff recommendation. on
There's
it.
no, okay.
But what are other communities doing, Carl?
Most communities have gone to the 5%. The state itself, or the state employees, have gone to 5%.
And
Right,
what do we do for our own employees? We stayed at 2 or 3?
No, our employees are part of this retirement system.
right. This is
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, I'm just talking about,
Oh, you mean our active employees?
yeah.
Oh,
I know police came out somewhere around 2.5 or 3.
yeah, I forget what you approved now for the cost of living. If it was
I think
2 or
it was
2.5.
around 2.5%, because remember, we had the full comp study done.
Right.
And it was the first year of the comp study, And we made sure that everybody was in the right position,
Right.
the right median.
So
So I recall it being at around 2%.
we go,
Yeah.
I'm just, if we go 5% back to July 1st, 2022, and then is it for just that year? So we're only doing this for the year 2022, July to July 23?
But it's in the base.
It's
now.
in the base.
You're right.
Right, stays in the base.
You know, and
What's
So-
the cost?
How's it? Right, exactly. What's the cost?
Well, the cost gets factored into our assessment. They
So
haven't,
our assessment was, say, $237,000. I'm just doing that from memory because I read the Norfolk County assessment a month ago, right? We're
it's not-
amongst the smallest because it goes by the number of employees in the town. So let's just say that our number was $230,000. So would it be approximately 250,000?
well, our assessment for 24, fiscal 24 is a little over 1.7 million.
Then what am I thinking of that was $200,000
I
for the
don't know.
Norfolk County?
The
The Norfolk County assessment, we got a notice from the Norfolk County office about a month ago.
So that was
All
probably
the breakdowns.
that was probably the
breakdowns.
county. That was the county assessment. This is the Norfolk County.
I'm sorry.
retirement system, yeah.
You're right. It was the county assessment. You're right. So the 1.2 million is the retirement number assessment, and that number is going to go retroactively up. How do we pay for it?
So it's an important question. Every 2 years, every retirement system has to do a new actuarial study.
Right.
So and I don't know what their date is, the Norfolk County's date for doing theirs, but in their next actuarial study, they'll factor in, if this gets approved by a majority of the members, that will get factored in to the next retirement actuarial study, and will get paid for. I think the county is on track to be fully funded by it's either 2034 or 2035 in there. So we'll get factored in over the next, 10 or 12 years, our assessment.
So can we estimate what the increasing cost is to the town?
No, because you don't know how many people died. You don't know how much money is in the
No,
account.
I know all that, but you could do a back of the envelope kind of calculation, can't you?
How would you do that?
I would need to look at the report and figure it out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think if we had the actuarial study, we could
You have
probably
to
do
have
it.
the actuarial numbers. You have to know what the report says, and you have to know what you can assume 3% more than 1.2 million if you wanted to say ballpark.
I'm sorry, it was 1.7 million.
I'm sorry,
One-
whatever the number was.
Right.
So what's that, like 500,000?
400.
Can't be that high, gotta be smaller than that.
No, yeah.
1.7 times 0.3 is what?
About 40,000.
Yeah, I had too many zeros.
About
Let's call it
40,000,
50,000.
45,000.
51,000.
That's at 3%, right? That's at 5%.
That's at 3, yeah, this is only 2, so we've already the original 3% is already factored
Yeah,
in.
right.
So it's just.
So it's
an
the
additional-
2% difference on
Yeah, so
one
maybe
point seven is what, 34,000?
35,000, right?
And it seems like all other communities are doing it.
I'm not swayed by the crowd mentality. Crowds are usually wrong. But I'm not worried about 34,000 either.
Right, so,
John?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that either, Bob. It's sort of like ready, fire, aim, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing it out of order. Typically, you would do it once you had all the numbers. But if our, as we have been discussing, if our 2% back of the envelope on a math is correct, and we're $40,000, of course, that would be something I would be in favor of. The part that is a bit disconcerting is typically from an actuarial standpoint, you have all the numbers in front of you. And, the other part of this is you can buy insurance to cover if you're unfunded and you have an unfunded liability, you buy insurance to cover the part that you're not funded for. So it's not like it is a direct liability for us. And of course, interest rates, there's interest rates going up actually is a benefit to you because your fixed income portfolio goes up. There's a lot of things that work in your favor that can make the part that's fully funded more money and make our cost actually go down.
I just think this is a governor's shot to give people at the lower end of the income spectrum a little boost.
That's
Little handout for Christmas.
Well, but there's no free. There is nothing free. This is something
but
that's
we acknowledge that. We acknowledge that it increases our
Costs. Yeah.
our costs, and it's cumulative. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Well,
it's on the base.
yeah, it comes in the base and it'll be compounded over time, but
Right. But it seems as though this is what the Commonwealth is giving us. They're saying, decide now whether you want to increase it by 2%.
it's what the Commonwealth is taking away from us, not giving us.
Right. Well, they're telling us make a decision on this.
Yeah. And
anyway, I'm never a fan of ready, fire, aim type of motions or.
you're going to wash out of Top Gun, man. You're going to wash right out.
Right. So you know what? I think we've made the point. So I'm going to move to approve an additional 2% increase in the cost of living adjustment, which will bring the COLA up to 5% retroactively to July 1st, 2022 for eligible retirees of Norfolk County retirement.
This is for 1 year, right?
Right.
It is for 1 year, but as I asked that earlier, Bob, and the cascade of, but it adds to the base.
Oh, yeah. I got that clearly. So does the teacher's COLA,
Exactly.
So, but I don't know does it in the motion, does it say 1 year?
No, it's retroactive July for the eligible retirees.
Right. So does it end
for the fiscal year 2023? So it's going back in time for just that 1 year.
So it
Right.
starts
It's
in
a
July 1st,
1-year
2022.
Additional 2%.
The 2%, and it ends in June 30th, 2023.
It's just a one. So every year you just get a cost of living increase.
So it's just 1 year. Okay,
It's just an incremental instead of a 3%.
it's 5. Okay, second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Sprant.
Hi, John Jeffries.
All right.
Ready, fire, aim.
By the way, Robin,
Mhm.
can I just say for a second, I think I should abstain from this
Oh,
because my wife's a teacher.
I don't think it's for the teachers.
Right, so that's a different retirement system.
Right, it's a different retirement system.
Okay,
Dave,
It's just the town employees.
okay, okay. So you can count my vote if
All
it's,
right.
if it's, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so the next item on the agenda are Board of Selectmen updates. So the first item is the community center building project, and I think we covered that, right, Bob?
I think we did.
Okay. You
Thank
want
goodness.
to add anything else?
Nope.
All right.
Stay
So-
tuned for the info sessions.
Okay, yeah. So the next item of business is the town administrator's search update. So this week, the screening committee interviewed 7 candidates. As you recall, we got 30 applicants. We were very pleased with the strength of the field. We found that 3 candidates were worth bringing forward to the Board of Selectmen. The way that process works is we will conduct background checks and then make public the names of our 3 candidates. And at that point, I'll work to quickly put together an interview process. We, as a search committee or a screening committee, are recommending, and I agree with this, because I think it worked really well last time, is that we will also do staff and community sessions with the candidates. But the goal is to wrap everything up before the end of May. So
That's great.
I am very pleased. It was, we had a great committee. And I'm sure Carl is very pleased.
I think you're being sarcastic, Ron.
I
So-
just don't want to put, I don't want to risk losing a candidate for a nice, introduction to staff and community.
Bob, the recruiter will make sure and let us know if there's any risk of us losing a candidate. He understands our sense of urgency.
So I can report that after our last week with regards to the Chiefs search, Carl and I had the conversation. Carl began the process. I'm sure he'll cover that in his updates. We signed the board, the slate of screeners accepted. They are in the process of all signing and being sworn in. I think there's only one left to be sworn in.
That's great.
One screening committee ends, the other one starts.
We have a couple more to go, don't we?
Yes, we
I
should.
guess it'll be done by the TA,
Yeah.
project manager and the ATA.
That's it for me, Robin.
Nothing on Hale. Hale's quiet.
Hale, Carl and I were asked by Ruth to write an update for today. I just wrote what we covered in our meeting last week with regards to the combined meeting for Westwood, Hale, and the trustees of the reservation. So I just gave that as a background, the update for Ruth in the town
In
report.
brief. Yeah, in the in brief. Yeah, great.
So yeah, so really there was nothing since last week that I have or have had any interaction with Hale. Carl, have you?
The only other interaction was we have a revised version of the CR that we've been working on. Making a number of updates based on our comments, and my plan is to bring that document to the board at your meeting on May 11th in executive session.
That will be great because that is the gating item, right? Because once the Board of Selectmen review it, it goes out to the other committees for
Yes.
feedback.
So that'll be on the 11th, yes?
Yes.
The 11th, May
Yeah,
11th.
it's in the agenda for the
Yeah, I
11th.
just saw it, yeah.
So yeah, that's it for me.
And any update on the progress for the communications that trustees was working on?
DA, no, in terms of, I have not had a conversation with DA separate from the one that we had. Carl, have you?
I have not.
Okay, but they're, to the best of your knowledge, they're still working on.
Yeah, they're gonna finalize. We did get lots of feedback at our combined meeting from all the stakeholders. They're gonna come, they're going to take all that feedback. They're gonna have rough drafts, visuals, mock-ups of everything from all the frequently asked questions
Okay.
to the visual of lawn signs, billboard signs, the banner signs. All the various things will have a time frame and a theme and a common, the common theme, the visuals.
And it will be a common between Dover and
Yes.
Westwood. Okay,
Trustees, Dover and Westwood.
okay,
Don't forget, there's a lot of land owned by the trustees that people in Dover drive by every day.
right.
So the other thing I forgot, Robin, is the 3 to 5 committee.
Oh, okay,
And so we've gone through a series of meetings, and the objective was to get everybody kind of on the same ground as we hit May, so that people had a shared understanding of how the town works,
so you have
who
5
does
days.
et cetera, et cetera. And the idea now is to have the different groups who are working on the different issues do summaries that we review in May, and then create sort of a base package of information to launch off into additional work. And that should be done by the end of May. Then my presumption is, given the 3 to 5 committee will not meet until September. They'll
Okay,
take the summer off.
okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Bob,
so,
one quick question. Westwood's got 3 selectmen. Obviously, Sherburne went from 3 to 5. And have we given thought to when we'll have conversation with our surrounding
Yes.
town?
Yeah, part of what's going on now is to identify like towns.
Yep.
Then to create a list of questions that we would ask people,
Yep.
To make sure that it's consistent and that we're trying to get beyond opinion.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult because most of this is just simply opinion.
Mhm.
And so that's why I tried to ground the committee in understanding the work of the town, who does what and how it works, and how adding or subtracting from that would make it a substantial difference in the effectiveness of the local government. So that's where I think we're driving.
Mhm. It's the town of Harvard has 3. I had a conversation with one of their the members of the Board of Selectmen there, and this was a topic of conversation. So
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I'm not so sure it's the number of people, but the type of people and how well they work together.
how well they work together,
That makes the difference.
and then what the infrastructure of the town has or doesn't.
Right, exactly. So we're trying to go beyond opinion.
so I have a compliment for the town. In almost all of our interviews for town administrator search, almost all of the candidates complimented the town on our newsletter. They felt that the digital newsletter gave them a lot of insight into the town, what was important to the town, and they thought it was very well done. So kudos to everybody, because this is, a public-private partnership. It's the town, it's volunteers. And it was really nice to hear.
I like the fact that they thought of it as sort of groundbreaking. I like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna raise the bar. It's gonna make it harder to do,
Right, I just thought it was really nice feedback,
Yeah.
No, it's terrific feedback.
all of
Absolutely.
them commented that was the, that they all commented what a good, how good it was, that it was succinct, that it was well written, it just really gave a flavor for what was going on in the town.
That's great to hear.
That's great to hear, because it seems like it's been 6 years in progress of getting it to this point. So that's great. Thank you.
So I wanted to personally thank Ruth, but she dropped off. And
Yeah, she gets too many compliments. She can live without it.
Can never thank Ruth enough.
So were there any more selectmen updates?
No, I'm good. Thank you. I
Okay,
just forgot
all
about
right.
the 3 to 5.
All right, so then it's Carl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the ongoing project list that we keep for you. And so a couple of things to point out. Again, I highlight the ones I wanted to at least bring to your attention in green. The first is under number 5, recruitments. HR director. So we had 31 applications. There were 7 candidates that, at least on paper, look strong to us. Rick Reed, who was our interim HR person, he'll do a very initial screening of those candidates over the next, he hopes to have it done next week. And then we'll set up a couple of panel interviews for those candidates that look strong to us. And then right below that, although I didn't highlight it, for the planning director's position, which we have re-advertised, we've only received 4 applicants for that position, 2 that have municipal experience, and that position or that advertisement still open for, I think, another 10 days. So we'll see what happens on that.
Right, so Carl, I would say I've been really impressed with Community Paradigm. They really did a tremendous job on the recruitment of the town for the town administrator role, and they've really been great to work with. And I noticed on their website that they've also done searches for town planner. So maybe that's something we should consider if we just don't get any good candidates, is just to think about hiring a recruiting firm.
Sure.
Robin, I don't think we should phrase it as get any good candidates. We should rephrase that as to a deep candidate pool. There might be a very good candidate in those first couple of people. So
and I said, if we don't get a good candidate, if we feel as though we don't have qualified candidates,
or big enough
we
pool.
should consider, right?
And then number 27 on the list, this was regarding an item on before town meeting, the highway department roll-off vehicle. So we had 2 studies done of that piece of equipment, one a mechanical analysis, which suggested that the vehicle be replaced. And then we had a financial analysis done by the Collins Center. And the results of that suggested that contracting out that service will be a better business operation for the town than continuing to do it in-house. So we've discussed this, I discussed this with the chair and the chair of the capital budget committee and the DPW director, and our recommendation is to go out to bid for the contractual service and see what we get back in terms of bids. And if the bids look competitive, to do a one-year trial program of contracting it out. But to leave the roll-off vehicle in the budget, but we wouldn't go ahead and order that vehicle unless we felt that contracting it out was not the right way to go, after, 6 months or so. We felt we could make the decision whether it made sense to contract it out or not.
So the 240 stays in a cap stabilization?
The 250 will stay will stay in the budget, but it wouldn't be expended. It would just be if for some reason,
Yeah, but why wouldn't it be in cap stabilization?
Because
it's an
we have to be
appropriation.
approved.
Yeah,
We have to, we get it, we have it in the warrant, it gets approved. We hold it, but it wouldn't be in stabilization. We would just hold it in the budget and we wouldn't have to expend it.
And what we could do, Bob, is if we don't expend it, move it to cap stabilization.
Yeah, but that's a separate thing.
So I don't know why we do a two-step, right? This is a highway vehicle. We have highway spending going on. Padding it, not padding, increasing the amount of funding in the cap stabilization, understanding future needs, seems like a no-brainer.
I think that you're right, but I think it would be a little bit late to do that. Actually, we'd have to amend the amounts that we would be reading through in the capital budget.
Well, was the 250, is the 250s there, isn't it?
Right.
Yes.
Right, so if it's there and people approve it, and we don't spend it, my only
Well, I
question
think
is
you need a separate motion.
to move it into the cap stabilization.
Yeah, it's a separate step.
Okay. Well,
Right.
there's 2 steps anyway, right?
Right. Carl, have you had a conversation, or has Kevin had a conversation with Wellesley or with Needham with regards to the use of their roll-on, roll-off vehicles, potentially contracting them as the vehicle? And the reason I ask that is a third, or about, I don't know what percentage, quite a few trips that the roll-on, roll-off vehicle makes is to Wellesley, and because Wellesley is the transfer place where part of the recycling goes. The other part goes to Millbury. So Needham and Wellesley both go to Millbury as well. So has Kevin had that level of conversation yet?
We haven't gone out to bid yet.
Yeah.
That would be part of that strategy.
I was just thinking, Robin, that might be a conversation you would have simultaneously to going out and to determine, is a bid to a private contractor different than a joint service agreement with a municipality?
I think we're required to bid, aren't we, as a part of the procurement services?
Well, there's a lot wrapped up in that question. So Needham contracts out. They don't do it with their own equipment. Wellesley, as I understand it, does use their own equipment to transport. We could have that conversation with Wellesley to see if they have any both interest and capacity to do either just the recycling piece or the wheelabrator piece. My sense is if they had any interest, it would be just in the recycling piece,
Right.
Because it's such a short distance, and they may not have to build in additional capacity on their own. Whereas if you're shipping to Wheelbrader, that's a a multi-hour affair for vehicles going out there. But, you know, to answer your question, we can certainly explore whether Wellesley would have any interest in expanding its contract with Dover. Beyond just taking our recyclables, but in actually transporting them.
So we don't have to go out to bid?
Not with an intermunicipal agreement, you don't?
But wouldn't you want to know which is less expensive?
Yeah, you would, Robin. It's just that the thought came to my mind with regards to a joint municipal agreement, because it's literally where we go. We go to Wellesley. They have the,
John, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying it should be all part of, you know, going out to bid. It's just
oh yeah, yeah.
another angle.
I understand.
I did not have any other updates for the board. If there's any questions on any of the other items, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
I don't have any questions on this, on anything here, Carl. I have something that came to my attention this week that I in fear of adding something more to your list, I just wanted to ask your advice on where it should go. A neighbor, two neighbors on Main Street of a building that's being demolished contacted me because there was no notification given to the abutters of the building being demolished, and the permit was filed for the demolition in November of last year. So the site work began this week, and as soon as the site work began, the neighbors went and they were just very, very upset that it's an antique home. It's one of the first homes in Dover, and it's coming down. So the notification process, and I did speak with members of the planning board prior to this.
Well, I think it's the building inspector.
How do we get the building inspector? How do we, what notice is required from the building inspector? Is that published somewhere? And it seems this type of thing happens periodically. And when it happens, it typically happens by surprise to the abutters.
So is this the property on the corner of Main and Springdale? Or
No, that property is slated to be demolished, but no, this is two homes from the corner of Haven and Main Street going south on Main Street from Haven Street on the left-hand side that abuts the community farm.
Okay. So the only, I'll check tomorrow with the building commissioner on this. If it's something that's covered by our demolition delay bylaw, then notification is required. And there's a public process. If it's not covered under demo delay, I'm not aware that there's any other notification required, but I'll confirm that with the building commissioner.
Well, having just received a demolition permit and having demolished a structure, I can tell you that there is no notification requirement.
And that's the notification, Robin, because your dwelling was not over 90 years old, correct?
I'm just telling you, based upon my dwelling is not over 90, but you know, the demolition permit process is very extensive and very long, and there are a lot of steps that have to be taken. So I think the person that knows what needs to get done is the building inspector.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a very rigid process, and it's not just the building inspector that signs off on it. You have to get the Board of Health to sign off on it.
No,
That's an interesting question on the age though. Where is the sort of historical commission or whatever it is?
The age, Bob, came in a couple of years ago where at town meeting, we passed that a building that was over the age of 90 years old had to have a 1-year delay.
Yeah. I just don't know whether, they have a floating,
If the
You know, anything is-
building, but it's like the historic commission, because I remember sitting on it, if they deem that the building has historic value.
value, right?
Town, right,
Right.
otherwise they can, they can, they'll say, go ahead and demolish the building.
So there's potentially two groups who may have be involved here.
Well, I think rather than speculate, we should just
Ask.
ask the
Yeah,
building
yeah,
inspector.
yeah.
See if they should ask.
I'll follow up. The building inspector is not in the office tomorrow, Friday, but I'll follow up with him on Monday and let you know.
I keep thinking because in Europe, it's a holiday on Monday, the 1st and Monday, the 8th. So I keep thinking it's a public holiday, but it isn't. It's just town.
You could
meeting.
take half the day off because you spend half your time in Europe.
Yeah, Robin, you live in Europe.
You could
We
sleep
live
in the morning.
in the United States, so you dance around the maypole. Isn't that what you guys do over there on Monday?
Yes, and
No.
drink heavily.
And drink heavily. So
Every holiday, they drink heavily. All
We-
right, so I'm gonna move to the consent agenda.
Hokey dokey.
So oh my gosh, so I move to approve the consent agenda, which really just contains the October 20th, 2022 Board of Selectmen open session meeting minutes.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Right, but I just wanted to tell everybody what was in it.
Got it. Somebody second it and let's get out of here.
Second,
all in
favor, I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Hi, John Jeffries.
Great.
All right, thank you. See you all Monday night. Town
We need
meeting.
we need a
Monday
motion to
night.
this. We need a motion to adjourn or something.
Move to adjourn.
Town meeting Monday night before we adjourn, 7 a.m.
I made the motion,
7
Bob.
PM.
7 p.m. I was looking at town elections. I'm like, why is the meeting 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.? That's one long meeting for those of the elections.
All right, I'm going to second John's motion.
All
All,
right,
all in favor.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Hi, John Jeffries.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks.
Yep.
Mona.
Thank
Thank you,
Have a good
everyone.
one.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Bye.
Good night, Mona.